Choosing an appropriate section or chapter from the prophets for this week's Sedra might be a bit complicated or confusing. The Sedra Mishpatim that deals with laws of many different categories, it's a bit difficult to focus on what is a central theme that you could do justice with any one chapter or half a chapter from the books of the prophets. Just to remind you, the Sedra begins with laws of slaves and the rights of slaves, goes on to animals, personal property of people that cause damage or even death, fatalities to others. It goes on to speak about many different things, including the holidays, the festivals, Shabbos, and the continuation of a description of the event at Sinai, the revelation at Sinai. So how can you choose the central theme? Well, the Haftara was chosen from chapter 34 of the book of Yirmiyahu, of Jeremiah. It relates there something that happened after the Babylonian king, Nebuchadnezzar, had overrun Judea. The king and the noblemen and the gentry decide that they should obey the laws of the Torah that deal with releasing slaves, Jewish slaves, after the 6th year. And on the 7th year, they go home to their families. The source for that law is in our Sedra, Mishpatim. So they do so. But then the next day, they go back and they force all those released free men back into slavery. This shows us that the central theme, or the more important theme, of Parshat Mishpatim in the eyes of the sages was freedom and liberty. And we can tie it in also to Revelation. Because God says, I am Hashem, your Lord, who took you out of Egypt from the house of slavery. And it leaves something unsaid. And now I am your new master. You now serve me. And therefore, an individual's liberty has to be respected. The beginning of our Sedra Mishpatim is not about slavery. It's about freedom. And the freedom that every human being, Jew or non-Jew, deserves. And when the people at the end of the period of the first temple, in the times of Tzidkiah the king, in the times of Jeremiah, of Yirmiyahu, when they disobeyed Hashem, they thought they could observe Shabbat, they could observe the rituals, but treat their fellow man as downtrodden and slaves. Hashem, God, in this chapter warns them, you in turn will be enslaved to the king of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. But please notice at the end of this Haftara, we turn back a few pages to the end of chapter 33, because the sages always tried to end a Haftara with optimism, with a message of hope. And therefore, even though the initial chapter 34 is distressing because the Jews disobeyed and are being threatened themselves now with enslavement, therefore we return to chapter 33, where Hashem says, if the heavens and the earth collapsed, that's when I would disallow or disavow my covenant with the Jewish people. So even when we sin, the covenant still exists, and Hashem will return us to be free men. We are living in a time when the Jewish people have had the merit, the zchut, to return to the land promised to us in Israel. And in Yirtzeh Hashem, God willing, the entire Jewish people will all meet there, redeemed under the light of God, and truly be a light unto all the nations.